the Savage Universe stream. I am happening in this Savage World space. We're having a little bit of internet issues, so if we pause, just know we'll come back around. I have with me tonight Travis. Travis, welcome to Savage Universe.
Thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate it. It's good to be here.
We were discussing the amazingness of Mage 20 before we started, and accidentally came really close to missing our go live.
Yeah, it's easy. Mage has a way of kind of dominating a conversation and sucking the time out of the area. But
but it's good times. But we're not here to talk about Mage. This isn't the Mage Universe show. This is the Savage Universe show. So we have you on here because you have a Kickstarter going on for Savage Worlds right now, Odysseys and Overlords.
Correct. Yes, it is the second edition of Odysseys and Overlords. It is a old school inspired fantasy setting. The first edition was actually released under Basic Fantasy using the OGL. But when I was going to kickstart this in January. We were probably about 2 weeks away from the Kickstarter when
what could have happened?
Yeah, when there's a little OGL thing happened. Google it. You'll know what's up. And so I much like if you've ever seen Superman 3, I likened it to the scene with the Leaning Tower of Pisa in Superman 3. He turns evil and straightens it out, so the guy's got to remake all of his statues so they're straight. And then when he turns good, he comes back and bends it over again. I wasn't going to go through that, so I was like, all right, well, what's my other option? And I looked around, and I've been with the ACES program since there's been an ACES program, because I've done my urban fantasy setting Contagion through Savage Worlds, as well as my cyberpunk Citizens Divided setting. So I was just like, this makes a lot of sense. The Fantasy Companion had just come out, I think in like early access PDF, perhaps even. And I was like, this just makes sense. So I went through and I kind of scoured what was available in that book to see what would we have to adapt, what would we have to just create out of whole cloth, and what was already very well covered in the rules. And much to my delight, most of what I needed was pretty well covered in the rules. So I really got to focus on, all right, what makes this setting an interesting and unique place to play in. So we did all that sort of work, folded Savage Worlds into the actual play that I've been running for about 3 years over at the Roll for Seduction Twitch channel. And through the iterative playtesting, we got the book where we wanted it, and we brought it to Kickstarter.
And now you're about $850 away from funding. Got about a week left, so that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on. Is hey, let's see if we can't generate some interest and get this up over the finish line.
That would be great. Yeah, absolutely. We're last I looked, about 850 from the goal. So
yeah. Can you tell us what the setting of Odysseys and Overlords is? It brings to mind a very Greek kind of inspired thing, but that's because I'm a giant history nerd in the Greco-Roman time period. So
sure, and there's definitely some degree of Greek influence in it, though. I did, not to get in too far of a tangent, I tried to avoid getting too close to that because I've also worked on Scarred Lands for Onyx Path, which is very Greek inspired.
Oh yeah.
So I wanted to make sure I wasn't crossing the streams too much in terms of that. But so the basic setting is instead of you have a pantheon that was very similar to the Greek pantheon, I guess one might say. But instead of there being like a titanomachy that caused that to fall apart or anything like that, the gods fell into a schism. They had some disagreements, and they basically had a giant free-for-all war between the gods. When it was all said and done, 2 of the gods were left standing. They declared a truce and sort of went to their neutral corners of creation, and agreed that they wouldn't directly intervene with the world of mortals anymore. So they still empower their clerics. They still have their churches. They still push forth their agendas, but they don't directly interact with mortals anymore, and they don't. They are hands off with one another. They won't fight directly. That's kind of where the opening of the setting starts. The world has rebuilt since this war. There are the continent of Pangaea, which is where the majority of the action is set, has kind of about a dozen kingdoms that sort of line the outside of the continent, each with different types of government, different, almost like different subgenres. For example, the continent of Estria is kind of a very medieval European, human-centric, if not human supremacist sort of nation. They're very, very xenophobic. They don't like letting other people in their borders. And they share a border with the Shard, which is a Gothic horror-inspired nation that is largely populated by monsters. It's ruled by vampires, and the living people in that kingdom pay a blood tithe for the privilege of living there under Lady Moldovano's protection. Most of the adventures, the assumed starting point for adventures is a nation called Chandra's Haven. It's a theocracy run by the clerics of the ostensibly good deity, and they have a business where they basically write out writs of salvage for adventurers to go into a region known as the Untamed Gauntlet. This area is the largest portion of the continent. It's the place that got hit the hardest by the schism. It's full of ruins and long-lost civilizations and monster dens and everything adventurers love. And so the clerics of Chandra's Haven basically hire out adventurers to go in and acquire these relics, acquire the treasures that are lost, bring them back. And the church, of course, gets their tidy little 10% profit.
Right.
And so that's kind of the assumed base operating procedure. That's the reason that people are adventuring. That's the very, very bird's eye view of what's going on in the world.
That's awesome. I love that there is a reason for adventurers to go out and do adventuring things. It reminds me of the Aching God series. I don't know if you read that.
I'm not familiar with that.
There's a reason for people to do this. It's not just the sword and sorcery sort of. We discovered it and we're going to get rich. Like there is and I also kind of like the idea that it's a post-apocalypse fantasy setting. Like the apocalyptic war happened, and now we're sort of rebuilding, but there's still these, ruins and trauma that the world still kind of has to deal with.
Right, and those two things were very front and center in my mind as I was designing it. Because again, I wanted to separate it from some of the other post-apocalyptic fantasy I've worked on, such as Starlands. Yeah. So the idea that these nations that are standing have been around for a while, but the Untamed Gauntlet is just so full of it got so twisted and so broken during the schism and so full of monsters that nobody can really penetrate it and conquer it. You can make little incursions here and there, but nobody can really conquer it. And all the nations that border the Untamed Gauntlet have a great deal of their security is focused on maintaining that sort of border, keeping
the cordon there.
In there, yeah, exactly.
Now, I am with Savage Matrick. We were talking about great loves in gaming, and the Scarred Lance has always been. It was probably the game in 3rd edition D&D, the setting that I used basically exclusively for my 3rd edition gaming. I'm just saying, if there's a chance for Savage Scarred Lands, that would be amazing.
Those decisions are made above my pay grade over at Onyx Path. I am but a freelancer. However, what I would say is if that is something that people in the Savage Worlds community are interested in, I can't promise that you can make it happen, but I can tell you that there's 2 ways that you can show that you're interested in that. One would be to head over to Onyx Path's website and say so in the Monday meeting notes. Rich Thomas, the creative director, reads those every week. So if there's demand for it, Rich is far more likely to entertain an idea of it. Also, go back Odysseys Overlords so that I can show Rich that I can do a successful Kickstarter. Maybe it'll help tip the scales in our favor.
Awesome. Well, and here's the thing: if you haven't checked out Odysseys and Overlords, the price of entry is great. It's $5 for the PDF and $25 for the PDF and the POD for cost printing when the book gets put together, which is, I mean, it's a fantastic deal.
Thank you. Yeah, I really wanted to make it affordable. That was one of the sort of approaches I wanted to take with the Kickstarter. I haven't done a Kickstarter on my own for my company in, I don't know, 5 or 6 years probably. And like, I know that a lot of times Kickstarters will focus on, well, let's do like a big ticket item or two, things that people can throw a lot of money at, so on and so forth. And I didn't want to try to do that. I just thought if I can get it out there at an affordable, reasonable price to people and go for trying to reach more people and get more people involved with it. Another thing that we're doing, and this is absolutely a tactic that I have borrowed unashamedly from Onyx Path and the Kickstarters that they do, is I'm rolling out a version of the book throughout the Kickstarter to backers only. So when the campaign opens, you're going to have a version of the book. I go a little bit further than traditionally Onyx Path will usually do, like a manuscript preview, and everything's in like Word format that's been locked into a PDF. I have the laid out PDF. It is not finalized. It has not been through the last editing pass, and it doesn't have bookmarks. But basically, you'll wind up at the end of the campaign with a chunk of PDFs that are playable. You can go use them at your table right off the bat.
Awesome.
My other plan for that is to try to make it, more attractive to backers. Is we've got a feedback form up with each of our updates, each of the backer only updates. So you can go in if you see something that's wrong or something that's not clear, or just want to tell me how awesome you think the world is, you can go and put that in the feedback form. Once the campaign locks down, I will be going through all of those, applying that feedback as well while I'm doing the final editing pass. And then we should have the PDF off to drive through to distribute to backers probably I would imagine within 30 days of when we wrap the campaign up. It's going to be pretty quick. Yeah, and then from there, right to however long it takes us to get the print proofs.
Exactly.
So I don't want people to be waiting on it. So I mean, the book is basically written and done. It's been through a couple of editing passes and several playtesting iterations. But of course, and I'm sure even with our lovely backers throwing in feedback and everything else that's happening and so on and so forth, I am quite certain that I will get my proof copy back and immediately find a typo, because that's the nature of publishing.
That's always the way it works. I think, for aces out there who are listening, and I say this as a small press publisher, like Strange Owl Games is 3 people and our art guy, so 4 people. And I think one of the best things that you can do to engender goodwill among your fan base is be able to say, hey, when this closes, you're getting some form of the book immediately. This is not a spec project where we're going to not start any writing until we go to Kickstarter. I think for smaller companies, this is a way to get people to back early and often, because you're guaranteeing, hey, you're going to get something as soon as the Kickstarter, as soon as it funds, and as soon as the funds hit us and we have our backer list, final backer list, you're walking away with 80% of the project immediately, and then the rest will fill out. It cuts down on backers grumbling about where something's at. It gets you a lot of goodwill from people who may see that you've only created one thing, and this is your first time out. Why should I trust that you're ready? Why should I give you my money? It helps create trust.
Absolutely. And I'm going to be completely candid with you and say something that maybe people who are actively running a Kickstarter shouldn't say, but I'll peel back the curtain a little bit and I'll say, win or lose, this book will come out. It's largely done. If we can't get over the hump and get that last $850 in, I'll be sad. and I will go lick my wounds, but then the book will come out because it's already had the work done to it. And I think that's another advantage of taking that approach, because really what we're trying to do with this Kickstarter is say, it's a more viable way to get it in front of more eyes than just me blasting it on my social media. For one thing, that's the main thing with it. And then also it's an opportunity for us to provide some add-ons. And if, a lot can happen in 7 days, if we get past our main goal, I do have some stretch goals lined up, things that we would be able to add on at no extra cost for the backers that have already supported it. Those I have those things in mind, and those are the types of things that might take a little bit of have a bit of an extra tail on them in the back end production wise. But I think if you plan on putting your book together and getting it into, an 80-90% there state, and then you're going to launch a Kickstarter, I really think it's a good way to tackle it.
The first time I remember seeing that was the guy who does Stars Without Number, Kevin Crawford.
Mm-hmm.
And then Onyx Path was doing it as well. And it really, I got to start playing Mage 20 within weeks, maybe a couple of months. It's been a while since that first book came out, but I had the manuscript and I could say, hey, we can start playing today. And
absolutely.
I love that.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I've seen it. I've seen that method succeed for Onyx Path over and over and over and over again. And I've seen how the fan base seems to enjoy it. So that's, I thought, why not? Let's try that out our way. And again, we're doing it a little bit differently because we're smaller, and I also realize and acknowledge and understand that does open us up to the possibility that somebody's going to if they pick it up and they're enjoying it, they're going to see it through. They're going to want to get that final version that has all the bells and whistles in place. And, most people are just genuinely good people. They're not going to, hop in and just hop out at the last minute. Like, haha, I got what I wanted,
Yeah. And here's the thing, you're going to get it. You're going to get those people, and you just need to acknowledge they're the outliers.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the people jumping in are going to just kind of adore this, and they're going to back because they believe in it. So let's get into the Savage World side of things. So
absolutely.
What changes did you did you guys introduce any new setting rules? What kind of archetypes do you have? And just to answer John Doom's question, the lowest entry point is for $1. You'll get a shout out on social media thanking you, and it's $5 for the PDF. It's a great price.
Yeah, and I'm going to also break a rule of self-promotion in that we say if you back it for $5, you're going to be getting those previews, but in reality, Kickstarter doesn't have a way for me to. It's either backers or not for backers. So if you back it for $1, you can still see the previews.
Yeah.
And hopefully that will, if you're only at the $1 level, hopefully that will inspire you to kick it up to $5.
Yeah. And for any of us who again,
and Aces, thank you, John Doom, by the way. Thank you for backing.
That's right. That's why I put that up there. So we, just so potential aces are aware of, Kickstarters usually go with, you get a big push in that first 48 to 72 hours, and then you get starting.
I think we might have gone a little robot-y, but
we're having
yeah, a crypt race in the chat. Yeah, it's very very dramatic.
That's right.
Apparently I'm not frozen. Oh, that's crazy. Neat. I'm taking over the channel. Wow.
Reach out to me and say, hey, I'm having a Kickstarter launch. Can I come on Savage Universe? Can you do an article for me? The answer will be yes. I want to get this in front of as many people as I can.
Yeah, absolutely cannot stress enough how important it is to write those emails and reach out and get those things going. And, we have been very fortunate in this Kickstarter as it's been probably the most steady pace of backers that I've ever seen in a Kickstarter. Like we've had one day where we didn't move forward, and that was because a couple people backed out by midway through, which happens. People have life happens.
Yeah.
But other than that, every day has been an upward trajectory, which is awesome. But you were asking me before we got on that tangent about
setting rules. Like, what kind of new mechanical stuff are you bringing to Odysseys and Overlords?
So our biggest sort of new things that we're bringing in are a whole list of new ancestries and a new approach to domains that includes the idea of apotheosis. This was something that I dug from like old school, like Mystara supplements, where the idea that you could, as an adventurer, work your way up to being like a demigod,
and
immortal and all that stuff. Right, exactly. So I was like, that's neat. Let's do that. Let's make that a path to play. It's not something you necessarily have to do, but it's there for you if you want to. And so we break down like how all the gods who died in the schism, their mantles are still out floating around out there. So there are ways that adventurers can eventually claim those mantles and then try to take over and be, the god of poison, because there is no god of poison right now. So that is one path to play that I'm very excited about. And with that, we have a couple of new domains for the cleric arcane background that I think are fun. And then our new ancestries, we have the main playable ancestries, with the exception of the human, are all either new or drastically different than what you'll see elsewhere. We have centaurs, but we've retooled them to kind of fit with the aesthetic of our setting. You'll find that they're mechanically distinct from what you see in the basic Savage Worlds rules. Though there's also some discussion of like these might, if you want to use the standard ones, they might be centaurs from another continent or something like that. So you still have ways you still have avenues of bringing in the traditional ancestries. We have the Abyss Kist, which are sort of extraplanar. The extraplanar heritage. So sometime during the schism, one of the servants of the gods that were on kind of the evil side somehow got mixed up in your bloodline. So you have maybe horns, maybe a tail, and a few sort of quote unquote infernal types of powers. We have lesser vampires as a playable ancestry. If you want to play someone who's a native of the Shard, who maybe is either adventuring for your own purposes or because you wanted to get away from the horrors of living in that country, you can play that as a playable ancestry. We have Ligonians, which are adventurers who come from an undersea nation. The Commonwealth of the Undercurrent, which is the nation that they're from, is a very advanced. They have high levels of public education. Alchemy and magic are relatively common, and some of them sort of get a yearning to adventure. And the way they go about this is you can petition one of the elders of the magical orders to make you an amulet that lets you breathe on the surface. So this is their way of getting onto dry land to adventure. And then any treasure that they acquire during their adventures, 10% of it is magically transferred to the person who created your amulet. So it's kind of a tax you can't avoid. And then
I love that.
yeah, thank you. I thought it was pretty fun. And then we've got the wild folk, who are descended from, in a time before the schism, one of the alleged explanations of the schism. Nobody's quite sure why it happened, but one of the rumors or legends about it were because humans and beasts were too close to one another, and some of the gods got jealous and struck down the beasts to the way they are now. And the people who have ancestry from before that are the wild folk. Nice. So they're basically any sort of beast folk you can imagine is possible for a wild folk. Primarily they're cat and dog folk, but they can be kind of whatever you want that's a mammal, pretty much. I feel like I'm missing some one of them, but now I'm second guessing myself, so I'm going to look.
Well, while you look that up, there's also some adventures that you had mentioned that had come out for first edition and informed the setting going forward. Are those part of this Kickstarter? Are they part of the stretch goals in the future?
So they are available right now. You can get them as add-ons for the Kickstarter at less than retail. And there are notes in the Odysseys Overlords second edition book for how to use those materials with the rules that are listed in here. One of the things we did, the bestiaries between the Savage Worlds core book and the Savage Worlds Fantasy Companion, the bestiaries are very robust. So rather than trying to design a whole bunch of new creatures, a lot of what we've done here, we have creatures that are effectively, this is the creature. It's got the same stats as you would see in Savage Worlds. Go see that chapter for the creature stats. And here's how their fluff is different in this setting. Then we'll have stat blocks that are, here's the full creature,
right?
Something new that we've introduced. And then we have something where it's like, okay, well, here's our version of this creature or something of ours that is similar to that creature. Here's the adjustments to the stat blocks that you would make, the different lore for it. And that also serves as sort of a way of making it backwards compatible with our previous adventures. Yeah, because everything that shows up in those adventures is listed in that bestiary. So if you have the two books, you can go through and do your own conversion at a glance. There's no real work to it.
And how many pages is the book going to be? Do you know that yet?
The current version of it is, I think, at 80. And then we're going to be having one of the things you can back for at a higher level is to be listed in the thank you. I assume we'll have a page or two of those.
Yeah.
Hopefully, maybe more. And I may squeeze in a little bit of extra stuff. The other thing that we're including in it is there is a starter adventure in it that's fully ready to run. You just plug and play, ready to go. So if you want to get right into the game, you can. And I did look and see the two ancestries I forgot to mention earlier, the Spell Scorched, who are visually similar, I guess, to Drow, kind of. They were the priests of of Ember, the goddess of knowledge and magic. And during the schism, when the incident that caused her demise happened, there was like a magical backlash that went through the nation where she lived, and especially hit the clergy who were there with her trying to work this effect. And so it altered them magically. It made them frail. It made them, it changed their features a bit. But as a result of that, they have built this culture that is very much about trying to protect the world from the dangers of arcane magic. So in one sense, it's a noble cause to a degree, but also they tend to think that we're the only ones that have a right to the magic.
Right.
So that tarnishes that nobility a little bit. And then the other one was orcs are very different in Odysseys Overlords than you might imagine in other settings, in the sense that the orcs gained a reputation for brutality during the schism, but that reputation was based solely on the defense of their own borders. Basically, okay. They live on this somewhat idyllic island. They have a long, rich tradition of sort of animistic practice, union with the land, things like that. And when the schism popped off, they were just like, nobody gets to come take our land. And so they just, they didn't go out and invade anywhere. They just held their ground and let no one in. And only now, 1,000 years after the schism, are they starting to open their borders to other people a little bit. So they have this very, it's a very rich, almost shamanistic tradition and strong culture based around that. So they're very much kind of fish out of water when it comes to interacting with the rest of the setting, which I think is fun and cool. I think we have another gremlin.
No, not gonna Not going to disparage my internet provider. Any new setting rules?
We have not added any new direct setting rules. There are some recommendations about which ones that you want to toggle, but we do want to leave that up to each table to kind of sort out. And I didn't feel that. I thought that the ones that are covered in between the core book and the fantasy companion, they're so robust and they cover all the ground we really needed to cover, I think. So yeah, we did not add any new setting rules.
Especially in the fantasy companion, you just pick your genre and you've got a chunk of them. Yeah,
it's all kind of laid out intelligently for you. We did add some new powers as well, and a whole bunch of new magic items. Our current update, I think, is a preview of the magic items. It's just like the first page of that chapter, and then we'll be releasing another public preview of it later in the week, and then on Tuesday that chapter will go out, and that will also include the adventure, so that it'll be the full PDF will be in people's hands by Tuesday, because the campaign ends next Thursday.
All right. Awesome. I'll post the link one more time.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Travis, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. You froze, so you're asking me if I have anything else I want to promote or plug, I assume. And I would say, if you could, just follow me over on social media. I'm in various places on the internet. All of which my handle is at Travis Legge, Legge, with the exception of Twitch, actually, which is Plastic Age Plays. And I'm going to pop that in the chat so you can see that it's me. Hi, it's me. I don't chat during streams. I don't type during streams often because I have a hard time typing and talking at the same time. And thank you so much to John Doom for backing. I really, really appreciate it. I look forward to hearing your thoughts on the campaign as we go. One thing I would like to encourage anybody who is backing to do is, comment on stuff. Let us know what you think of it.
Yeah.
That helps us make the best book ever. You have returned. Thank you.
Apologies again for all the technical gremlins tonight. We'll be back next week with Savage or Swagtember, our first round of guests, and hopefully I will have beaten my internet providers into submission for next week.
Come back with your router or on it.
That's right. Come back with your router or on it. Perfect. All right, everyone. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, stay gaming. Go out there and play some Savage Worlds, and may all your dice ace. Have a good one.
Thank you.